We're going live. All right, keep it PG, guys. Let's go, people. It's currently midday. We don't usually stream on Wednesdays. We usually stream Mondays, Fridays, Sundays, 8 p.m. plus. You know the vibes. But today we are at University of Surrey with our good friend Frankie. He's been a good friend of Blockchain Sensei. And we've got SHURiKAN Sounds' Chief Technical Officer and Head of Artificial Intelligence, Jay Johnson. SHURiKAN Sounds is a subsidiary of Blockchain Sensei. And today, Jay Johnson is doing a university talk on ramps. I don't need to do a financial disclaimer, do we? Because there's nothing financial about this.
No.
So
Yeah, perfect.
we don't need to do a disclaimer.
I don't think this is actually not. Might have to be.
Let's make sure the YouTube's working. Are we live? Are we successfully live on YouTube?
Okay, I can help you. Okay, cool. Okay.
Live on YouTube.
Okay, I can help you.
Oh, let's make that full screen. Because they don't want to see me twice. Full screen. Okay.
How are we doing today, guys?
Very good. How are you?
Good stuff. Yeah, my name's Jay. I can
Nice to meet you.
Jay. Nice to meet you. Hey, how you doing? What's your name?
Lynn.
Yeah.
Yeah, let me start first.
Let me take
So
from the first.
thanks all for the time today. Let me introduce our academy. Yeah, let's see. Please take a seat. Yeah, our academy, Surrey Academy for Blockchain and Metaverse Application, is under Surrey Business School, and we have a group in different channel. You can scan the QR code so that we can keep connect. This is our academy structure. So our aim is to push everyone to know about blockchain and metaverse. And this is the whole year. We have a lot of event, workshop, and this kind of event we always keep on going. And these two projects is supported by our academy, like Mesity, the charity energy marketplace, and also the Pixie is a Web3 social media like Facebook. So at May, we also have lots of event like this hackathon, and many students involved. And then just at last event, we also invite Blockchain Sensei to involve in this event, and we invite a lot of guests to come, like Animoca brand and from Solana. So for public engagement, so we always regularly have a parliament event. And we also partnership with other university like University of Greenwich, Warwick, and UCA. And we always have a lot of events, and it's a coming gaming event also. Partnership with Warwick and UCA. We secure 1.5 million fund to engaging with the gaming session. We also join a lot of event with the student, like e-hackathon. Our student won a prize, and this is our event prize, so you can also scan with it. And today, I with many lucky me can invite people from Blockchain Sensei, head of creative IT. So pass the time to you.
Thank you, Frankie. Appreciate it. Yeah, hello. Good afternoon, everyone. Thank you for being here. My name is Jeremiah Johnson, Director of AI at Blockchain Sensei. And I guess just a bit about me. Me with regards to artificial intelligence. So I discovered ChatGPT November last year. So it's been exactly a year. At my older brother's flat in Manchester, he told me about it one late night, and I just stayed up the entire night, just asking it questions about many different things. Because of course I'm privileged enough to be in a position where I have multiple skills And I like to see how they can essentially be used in conjunction with each other to create more valuable experiences for humanity. So first things first, yeah, it's a real pleasure to be here. This is actually my second time. Yeah, sweet. Could you make it full screen as well? Yeah, I think you can just click the top right. This one there. Perfect. Yeah, great stuff. So this was less than 2 months ago here at another room. Yeah, obviously, as you can see, members from Blockchain Sensei and Frankie, of course, we were hosting Game Ball Rally. And yeah, we've got a whole lot of events we're essentially running at the same time. Some in London, some here, of course. So yeah, definitely keep in touch if you like this presentation. Next one, please, Frankie. Okay, cool. So firstly, I think we all want to have this discussion, right? Like, what is a prompt, right? So obviously a prompt is how we relate to AI, or more specifically LLMs, which stands for large language model, which specifically relates to the ability to use text to communicate with artificial intelligence machines. So I don't want to go on too long. I actually want to know from you all, how would you describe a prompt, or how have you gone about using, I don't know, ChatGPT, Bard, Perplexity, Claude, any of these LLMs? If anyone is keen to speak up. Or not. Sorry.
I mean, I guess how I used it so far.
Yeah, so like what's your approach? Like say you want to get it to give you something,
All right.
or to edit a
I
piece of
try
text.
to describe a situation of sorts that I don't know, let's say I want a description of a process in detail. Say something like, I don't know, imagine you're um, top of the world expert into doing such and such a thing. So I try to describe it as much as possible, add as many details, as in what kind of output I expect, whether it's, I don't know, some numbers or a particular structure that I have. I haven't fully, I don't code with that, so I just literally use the interface. Like normally I'm talking about ChatGPT mostly. So that's the one I use.
Okay, great stuff.
That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, that sounds really interesting. And what you've actually done is you've touched on what will be the first sort of aspect of the structure we'll be using to generate prompts today. So yeah, whenever you guys are free, you're more than welcome, of course, to just load up either ChatGPT or whatever LLM you like to use the most. Yeah, you don't have to have ChatGPT Premium for this session. You can also go on to Claude.ai. That one's free. Of course, there's also Bard and Perplexity. Yeah, so I would recommend just getting those up on your browser now. Yep.
Yes. Is there actually one or two? I don't think I know Perplexity. So what is? Do you have like the differences, or which one would you recommend more for? Maybe it's part of the conversation.
No, absolutely. I mean, it's definitely something that I knew would come up. So there are four main LLMs, specifically large language models, which are AI models that you can communicate with using text, right? ChatGPT is, of course, the flagship, the biggest one, that sort of exploded the market because it filled such a unique gap. Essentially, it was a unicorn, which is a term used in startup industry. So that is, of course, great all around. They're constantly improving it. Now you can actually create your own GPTs, which I've done.
After this week,
What's that, sir?
if you didn't kick after this week, knowing so many things happen within, right?
Yeah, that's very true. If anyone hasn't heard, they fired their CEO. There's also another AI that is officially the CEO of another company. Like people have gotten around like together and said, we are going to make this large language model our CEO. And they just ask it questions, and that's how they direct the decisions and the directions of their entire business. So yeah, very interesting stuff happening all the time. ChatGPT is of course great all-rounder, probably the one developing the most. The second best, I would say, is Claude. Now the URL for that is CLAUDE.ai. Another great one. The reason this is particularly magnificent is because the token window is actually a lot bigger than ChatGPT. So you can essentially copy and paste an entire book, right? Or literally just drag in the PDF file into this LLM, and it will essentially manipulate the information and represent it or represent it to you in any way you describe, right? So this is, of course, very valuable, especially for generating bits of content. Yeah, so that's what Claude's great for, essentially analyzing long bits of text, and it tends to be better at describing things compared to ChatGPT. Now, Perplexity is great for doing complex research, right? Because this is also very heavily connected to the internet, and it's really good at actually synthesizing information from multiple different resources. Now, the last one is the one that's probably, I would say, it's probably the next closest one to Claude. So in order of like best ones overall, I would say it's Claude, Bard, GPT, and then Perplexity. GPT just happened to be the first. So yeah, but there are definitely others in the space doing great work. So Bard is great because it was actually created by Google. Now, what this means is it's got an even more intimate access to the internet, right? So it can scour more of it because literally Google would have trained it on its frameworks and how it actually computes things. So yeah, those are the 4 LLMs that I would say are probably the biggest right now, the most popular ones. Yeah, we'll definitely get to that in a little while. Cool. So yeah, here's the dictionary definition of a prompt, right? So it's a verb and a noun. Of course, in the sense of a noun, we are trying to basically get ChatGPT to give us some information, right? An act of encouraging a hesitant speaker, right? Or in the verb, it means to cause or bring about, right? What we want is an output. We want to bring about that output from the LLM, right? So now we understand exactly what a prompt is. We can go about sort of figuring out how to create one and how to structure it. Amazing. So this is a very simple formula that I like to use. So I'm currently also working with a global client with CEOs, CTOs, CFOs from all over the world, helping to upskill them in artificial intelligence, how they can use it in their daily lives. Right. And this is something I often recommend to them. So this is a structure known as CREATE. And that is, of course, an acronym for character, request, example, audience, type, and extras. Right. So you mentioned earlier, the first thing you did was to actually give it a bit of context, right? And this is the best thing to do at the start. You want to give your large language model a persona. Now, this can be literally anything from a very famous person, random celebrity, to a doctor, right? I'm not advising you take medical advice from AI, but there's a wide range of personas you can give it, right? So it's really important to know that. And then, of course, is the request itself, right? What do you want it to do? Right? What information are you looking to extract from this large language model? You can go back. Sorry. Then, of course, examples are always useful, right? Because then it can see exactly what you want, or at least it can see the structure and format, and it's now in a better position to recreate that structure or format. Audience, of course, if it's any sort of marketing material or material designed for any sort of showcase, you want to know who the audience is, then of course your LLM will be able to tailor its output to your audience. Type, specify the response format or type. Now, a lot of people don't know. Also, I think it's becoming more and more common knowledge. But of course, ChatGPT and these LLMs, they can also create images, videos, audio, spreadsheets, like essentially tables, bullet pointed lists. The list goes on. They can actually generate quite a lot of content in a lot of different kinds of format, which is always important to remember. And lastly, any extras. So word limits, I like to use those. Let's say you're using it to refine a tweet or something and a character limit, and you don't want to use it all up. Let's say your character limit is 500. I might add on the end of my prompt, make sure the maximum word limit or character limit is 250, just to be safe and to make it more succinct. Next, please, Frankie. Cool. So let's dive into each and every aspect of this. So firstly, when I say character, I mean who exactly has the right expertise, right, to give you the information that you want. Because when you prompt it in such a way, right, it essentially scours the entire internet and it tries to compile information, right, on that persona. And then it basically trains itself on everything that persona would know, how they would respond. And these are very key things, of course, because this will be the absolute foundation of the output you receive from your large language model. So like I said, The character can be anything from a celebrity to a professor of business management, for example. Next is the request. You want to be really precise when you're talking about the request. Like, what exactly do you want it to do? Its limitation will always be, in part, your ability to create a prompt and to generate a prompt creatively. So one question I get asked a lot is, what do you use AI to do? And really and truly, a better question is, what don't I use it to do? Because my sort of previous background in being creative has allowed me to actually explore the multiple ways you can use large language models. And for me, this is really a creative exercise whenever I'm talking to, of course, such a technical machine. But really and truly, its output is, of course, always determined by your level of creativity with regards to your approach of the prompt. Hence why this approach is a very valuable one to remember. Next, we have an example. Yeah, for example, you could quote or comment on a very popular story. You know, you can give that as an example, or let's say some marketing material. You can copy and paste a paragraph from, let's say, a business that you are aspiring to be like. Be like, okay, cool. So take this paragraph they've written and tailor it to my business. Here's a bit more about my business. So you provided it with that example, and it knows exactly what you're going for. Audience, of course, very important, right? You could generate an amazing prompt, and that could in turn generate an amazing output. But if it's not tailored to the right audience, it surely will not be as effective as you would like it to be. Type, of course, I mentioned a lot of people aren't even aware that ChatGPT and these LLMs are capable of creating entire spreadsheets in the form of tables that you can just copy and paste into Google Sheets or any other Excel type software. So yeah, really valuable stuff, especially for crunching data as well. You can also upload big spreadsheets into it. It's going to understand it and it's going to be able to extract and potentially visualize data for you in a way that makes it easier to capitalize on. And extras, of course, any last minute things. Word limit is usually one I go for. Things you want it to avoid as well. You might want to avoid particular topics. So you put that at the end. Okay, avoid this, or don't go to this sort of format. Don't speak on this aspect of the wider topic I've given you, right? So these are really important things to know so that you can get extremely precise outputs. Amazing. So this is, of course, a completely fictional prompt that was never run by anyone. Now, C, who remembers what that stands for? I think you got it. You described it at the start.
Oh, yeah.
C is a character, right? So actors, of course, play characters, and we want this LLM to be an actor and to play a character. So I gave it this randomly, of course. You are the director of AI for a company that's been asked to give a workshop on preparing prompts for LLMs at the University of Surrey in Guildford, UK. Does anyone remember what the R stood for? Request. Amazing stuff. Provide an extensive outline for an interactive workshop, complete with visually striking images to accompany each key point of the presentation. Does anyone remember the E? Example. Good stuff. For example, the presentation could and should be centered around the create format for prompting LLMs. Create stands for character, request, example, type, extras. I think I've just given it all away. I think I left out the audience as well in that. Just remembered. Well, now I've just given away what the A was. So does anyone remember what the A was? So that was clearly planned. So this workshop will be for a group of university students, as well as people who are interested in humanity's most recent explosive developments in the field of AI, right? Cool. So you can include images, documents, tables, and anything you would would improve the audience's experience of the workshop. Right? Great stuff. And extras, make sure the material isn't too long or too short so that the workshop can be completed in the 1 hour, 30 minutes of this workshop. Great stuff. And then boom, it started generating something that I, of course, didn't use. And yeah, it is very, very useful. This is such a great format. This is what I teach to founders from all over the world, high level, people in management, C-suite executives from companies all over the world. This is something that I teach to them, and I stress that they learn and internalize. Because once you understand character, request, example, audience, type, and extras, you're already so far ahead of a lot of people who are attempting to get precise outputs from these large language models. Right, okay, so moving on. how can this actually be used today in this real world at this point in time, right? The biggest gap from what I've seen in artificial intelligence at the moment is applicable AI education. So, like I said, everyone's always asking me, what do you use AI for? Or how can I use AI? The first thing I think of is, okay, so what information do I need and how do I want it to be presented, right? These are the key things. So someone asked me, what do you use it for? Okay, cool. I thought the best way for me to tell people what I use it for is to show them what I use it for. So for example, I used it to generate the entire outline and structure of this workshop you're experiencing, right? I think only action is truth, and that's certainly a great way to put it straight into action. So of course, it can be used in HR, like you can have entire sort of databases, spreadsheets that have metrics on particular employees, right? And of course, all this data can be crunched down into easy, actionable steps and potential scopes for improvement with regards to each employee's performance. With regards to marketing, it's already sort of changed the entire game. You know, like people don't have to spend a long time to get great copy now. So it's like, why would they? And yeah, it's only the beginning right now. It's definitely going to explode even more. In legal sectors, you can imagine lawyers and people in the legal industry, they literally spend hours, hundreds of hours reading through documents, trying to find keywords, things they can use to strengthen their case. If they can copy all of that into a large language model that's capable of understanding it and representing that information to them in a way that strengthens their case, that's a whole lot of time saved. And of course, money as an energy essentially wants to be time, right? So if you can save people a lot, they're typically willing to funnel a lot of capital into that. So this is, of course, a market that is ripe for investment. Oh, customer service, of course, chatbots have completely taken over, the game. LLMs are a chatbot sort, but now you can be very specific with regards to the information you want your chatbots to essentially provide. And this is just a small subset, of course, of the industries that LLMs and this new form of generative AI is going to disrupt. Before I move on, does anyone have any questions or any thoughts?
So, where did you created this presentation?
Where?
Yeah, what
Canva.
What?
Canva.
Okay.
Oh, did you?
So
specifically?
I was wondering whether it is possible to use ChatGPT or other AI to create such presentation.
What, this entire presentation? No. So that's one of its limitations, which we'll definitely get onto. Ideally, I would say you wouldn't necessarily want to. You'd want to personalize that a bit more.
Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. So like you'd want to have some images. I mean, the outline and the structure was definitely ChatGPT, all the backbone, all the content, the kind of images that would go with it. That was all. It was very simple steps for me to follow, essentially. So it really simplified it, but it didn't do all the work for me.
It would give you the images that you would insert in your.
Bard gives images, yeah, and there are some images here that were actually generated by Bard. So I gave it a text prompt, and then it gave me some links to images that would actually suit this presentation. So yeah, text and images, a lot of them were taken from LLMs as well. Yes, sir.
You could try to ask ChatGPT to give you images, but you have to do a couple of drafts, but that's only on the paid version.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah, sometimes it's not as good as this. Okay, so you have to keep trying it. Yeah.
Thank you. I'm very glad. Great stuff. Anything else? Let me know if you guys have any thoughts, any questions at any point. Feel free to stop me. Cool. So moving on. Here is an example of someone using ChatGPT. What did they say? Tell me how ChatGPT works. Okay. ChatGPT is a large language model, first thing, that uses deep learning techniques to generate human-like text, as you can see. It is based on the GPT, which stands for Generative Pre-trained Transformer. Did anyone know that before? What GPT stood for? Interesting stuff. So generative, because of course it generates text. Pre-trained, because it's already been trained on a very large data set of publicly available information. For the most part, it's been the entire internet up until 2021, but now it's up to date. And transformer. Why? Because it's capable of transforming based on further data and information it is provided. So this is essentially what is going on in the background of ChatGPT. It's an AI that you can chat to that generates information based on data it already knew and data you give it, GPT. Right, architecture, which uses a transformer neural network to process and generate text. The model is pre-trained on a massive data set of text, such as books, articles, and websites, so it can understand the patterns and the structure of natural language. When given a prompt or a starting point, the model uses this pre-trained knowledge to generate text that continues the given input in a coherent and natural way, right? Any questions on that? I think that's quite an extensive explanation. Great stuff. So there are two types of modeling. Well, there are quite a few, but these are two key types that ChatGPT sort of uses fundamentally. So the first one is called next token prediction, right? So say, for example, you've got a sentence. Hannah is a, what could be the end of that sentence? Sister, friend, marketer, comedian, lawyer, doctor, anything, right? And it gets trained on all of these sentences and it starts to see which sentences are arising the most. And that's how it prioritizes what suggestions it should give to you. Let's say when completing messages, right? If you just want it to complete a message for you, or when even generating text to give back to you, right? And the second type is, of course, a masked language modeling. Now, this is similar to next token prediction. However, it's not the next token, it's actually the token in the middle, right? And when I say token, I mean, it's difficult to explain this concept. A token is essentially something like a word or a string of characters or even some punctuation, right? Just any sort of small bit of content or context that the LLM can use to better understand your prompt, right? So models like ChatGPT, they're also trained using masked language modeling that allows them to actually figure out what should have been in the middle of a sentence. And yeah, of course, that is very valuable in case you want to change a singular section of a bit of text or any bit of data. Okay, cool. So how many ways can I prompt? Now, there are quite a lot of different ways of prompting. This is just a few. I'll just go through them really quick. So there is zero-shot prompting. Now, zero-shot prompting is an interesting, I would consider it somewhat experimental because you actually don't provide the model with any context. You just provide it with content. And then you can ask it to sort of provide you with a reflection or a analysis of this content without any context. Now, this is great for abstract thinking, abstract methods of problem solving, right? And it can be very useful when you're trying to look at things from a different perspective, which is, of course, one of the key and primary steps when solving any problem. So template-based prompting, essentially what we're doing today with the create model, character, request, example, audience, type, and extras, very important. Now, this is just one of many. There are a few other templates that can be used. This, from my research, is one of the most effective ones. And yeah, this is definitely one that has yielded me a lot of success with regards to even, let's say, generating leads so I can facilitate more workshops on AI and topics that I find particularly interesting. Few shot prompting. Now, this can lead to more focused and relevant responses. So the difference between zero shot and few shot, as I'm sure you can imagine, is zero shot has absolutely zero context, no context whatsoever. It's just an abstraction, and you're trying to get the most abstract forms of thought out of this large language model. Next, we've got chain of thought prompting, which is somewhat, I guess it's pretty much the opposite, isn't it? So zero shot is, of course, no context. Few shot is, of course, just a little bit of context, not too much. And chain of thought is essentially a step-by-step method of prompting that yields a step-by-step output from the large language model. And this is one of the most effective ones because this allows you to actually see how it's processing things, how it's processing essentially a lot of ones and zeros, but it will explain it to you in a way that you can understand through text. Now, this, I think, is one of the most effective ways because it can be particularly useful if you're being asked to justify things for dissertations, doctorates. This can be an amazing way to really flesh out your ideas and make sure each point is solid and robust. So yeah, like I said, these are just a few. I'm sure at this point there are tens of ways to prompt. Has anyone discovered any other ways of prompting at all? Because it's difficult to get away from, but maybe I'm super deep into it. In any case, you'll discover some more. The create format is just a really good example that's most easy to understand from my experience. Thanks, Frankie. Amazing. So what are the risks, right? The risks of AI, and more specifically, large language models, begin with what's called hallucinations. Now, in daily life, in human life, a hallucination is when you're thinking of something that you believe happened, but it potentially didn't. And with regards to large language models, it's when it completely fabricates information, complete, utter, like that guy who's, I don't know, had too many drinks at the bar and is just chatting, literally nonsense. Now, this is very important to know because if you're building a business on this and the outputs that this can generate, you want to make sure there are no fabrications. I sort of think of it like an employee. If you had an employee that came into work, let's say only one day every 3 months, so not that often, but he just completely messed up your entire operations. That would not be good, right? So it's important to make sure that you research what you actually get out, especially if it's something that already is, that just sparks a bit of controversy in you, and you just think, is that true? That sounds a little too good to be true. So what I would say is also be very skeptical when you're using these large language models. Do not take everything as truth because they are capable of creating complete, utter hallucinations. Yes.
Would you be able somehow to ask for, citations or for any piece of information it gives you? You can essentially check whether that's just fabricated, so to speak, or is there a way to just in the prompt maybe say, hey, don't write, you know,
It would be
anything.
I wish it were that easy,
Uh,
potentially, but I would err on the side of caution in this case, right? Simply because you don't want to take what it's giving you as truth and then, let's say, build upon that information. I would recommend Bard, which is spelled BARD, by Google. Now, this is similar to ChatGPT, created by Google, and that has extensive referencing and fact-checking capabilities. In fact, it will even flag some of its outputs if it believes you should really do some research on it. Right? So it's capable of analyzing that itself in that way. But I would certainly recommend, if it's particularly for like a research paper or something, that should be right, let's say a dissertation, then you absolutely want to make sure you've got those references. It will often give you links to pages. ChatGPT is also capable of that. So once you get that link to a page, that's of course something you can use in your bibliography, of course, after you've gone on that page and fact checked the information the large language model outputted, right? So yeah, very important to be aware of that. Next, we have data quality. That's okay. I'll let you know. Thank you, Frank. So next, you've got data quality, right? Because for me, I think this was a LinkedIn post I made recently. I said it's similar to, let's say, a Michelin star chef trying to make a gourmet meal out of things he found in the garbage, right? It's just not going to work. So the data quality needs to be important and it needs to be of a high quality because this will be a direct limitation of the large language model, right? The transformer part of Chat GPT, right, means changes, it transforms based on the information you give it. And if that information is not up to scratch, then of course the output cannot be up to scratch because it's trained on what you give it specifically, as well as, of course, data it was pre-trained on. So it's really important, and I can't stress this enough, because if there are inconsistencies in your data, there will be inconsistencies in your output. Well, I don't want to go on about that too long, but it is certainly very important. And lastly, with regards to risks, is confidentiality. Right, a key thing to remember is that your input can be someone else's output, right? So let's say a very basic task a lot of people would probably use LLMs for is to improve the state of their CV, right? So if you're going to do this, of course, you want to take off any personal sensitive information. Just give it your experience without, not your name, not your address, not your national insurance number, not these things. You want to make sure they're deleted from the prompt because, of course, that could potentially end up as someone else. It's really important to remember. And I think it would be very disingenuous if I didn't go into the risks of large language models in great detail. Now, I appreciate you all listening very attentively. Ideally, this will, naturally, it will transform into a more interactive session. So I've left some time for us all to play around with not just ChatGPT, but also some large language models. And of course, you're all more than welcome to ask as many questions as you'd like. Thank you. Oh, here we are. So here's an exercise we can all do. I think we can take about half an hour on this. So the aim is to create a questionnaire based on trivia about the University of Surrey, because why not? And I did this and found it was pretty easy. So I'm sure you'll all absolutely smash through this. Key things to remember, of course, are the create framework. The C stands for character, okay. The R is for request. The E is for example. We're getting it. A is for audience. T is for type. And the E is for extras. Great stuff. So, yeah, we're going to be using that framework. And when you've done with this, of course, you can think of more exercises to do. It's a whole lot of fun. And I, of course, will be around just to provide value however I can. So you could also use the time afterwards when you finish. We've got about 30 to 45 minutes on this. The time after, you could, of course, use this to get started with a task in your personal or professional life that you think an LLM could help you with, right? And of course, I will be on hand for that. So we can get started with that now. If anyone has any ideas or any questions, please let me know. For example, you could start off the questionnaire character as a student who's just moved to the University of Surrey, right? They're trying to generate a questionnaire so they have a quantitative view of, let's say, metrics within the university and what people like, what people don't like, all that sort of important stuff. We're all more than welcome to get started with that. If anyone has any questions, please let me know. And we can be on this for about 30 to 45 minutes or however long you feel you need in order to fully execute the create framework. And of course, you're more than welcome to begin on exercises yourself. I will be on hand to help, enjoy, and have fun.
I have a question.
Yes.
Why is that when I use the ChatGPT, using the same, like providing the same prompts, I would receive different answers, different results?
Yeah, so that's a great question. So why do you get different results when you use the same prompt? Now, the reason for that is because of the generative aspect of large language models. Now, this means everything they generate is essentially a one-off generation. Now, there could be similarities, of course. Generic prompt will always lead to generic outputs, right? And there will be similar threads and themes in generic outputs, of course. But that's actually a benefit because now it means there's at least less chance of two people getting the exact same output.
That's right. So my issue was when the results generated the second time is completely different. Like I can't help with this. So the first time, there would be a reasonable response with details, etc. But then the second time it would say, no, I can't help with this. I just can do this or that.
Okay, interesting. And when did this happen?
Like in the same almost half an hour.
As in, like, what day? Was that quite recently?
Yeah.
Yeah. If it was
2 weeks ago.
2 weeks ago. Okay, well, that happens every
free version.
okay, on the free version. Well, what I would say to that is there's certainly a less likelihood of that happening on the upgraded version. And also because this sort of technology right now is in such high demand, it is often down. So their servers often crash. Like recently, they actually stopped taking subscriptions, right? So you couldn't even upgrade if you wanted to. I think it's still the case now. The demand is just astronomically high. And even last night, as I was basically going over this presentation, trying to tweak the final things, ChatGPT was also down. So I was kind of like,
Okay.
this is
Wow.
like, how am I going to do this? But of course, I took some images of the outputs, so I was always ready.
Okay.
So yeah, what I would say to that is if you are interested in having the best sort of experience, right, and of course, or if it's beneficial to you in your professional view, then of course it is definitely worth investing in $20 a month subscription.
No,
well, when it opens up again, right?
Yes, we're trying to do that, but
Yeah, and it's key. It's a key thing to remember that it's constantly being updated as well. So sometimes, let's say that's happened 2 weeks ago. If you go back to it in the next 2 weeks, it's quite possible that prompt will actually generate you content, especially because it did it the first time. Or perhaps they're tweaking some of their ethical and moral rules, which is of course the big reason for all the sort of drama in OpenAI at the moment.
Okay, good, thank you. I have another question.
Oh, yeah,
That's
please.
possible.
Yeah,
If
I'm
no
here to
one
help.
is asking.
Yeah.
So why didn't you mention Bing?
Bing.
Because I've found that this research purposes. It has some like images appear to people. So just try this yesterday and I don't know.
Well, Bing, I mean, I haven't had much experience with Bing, and there are quite a few other ones as well that I thought was going into, because they're literally somewhere right now.
Yeah.
But I chose these four because I felt they were the most well-rounded with regards to their capabilities. So, of course, ChatGPT is the flagship of the entire market. Claude is great because you can actually put in a lot of information that an entire book. You can say boil down this entire book into a paragraph. Wow, you know what I mean? And of course, it's not the same, but if you're trying to get so if you're trying to spark your imagination to go down a particular direction, then this is a great to condense a lot of information and represent or represent it back to you in a way that's valid.
Yeah, ChatGPT can't do that. So it's reflected against characters.
Yeah, they just expanded it recently, but it's still not as big as good.
Yeah.
It's still a bigger stuff. Let me know if you have any more questions.
Thank you.
Can you use for your rather than target? Or is there a part in something, or you just have to read the folder?
You mean, can you speak into it?
Yes.
Do you know what? I'm glad you asked that because last night I got a message from a Discord group about OpenAI saying they just rolled out that functionality. So as of last night, you actually can. Even on your phone, I don't know if you have a ChatGPT. I will. Amazing stuff. Let me show you now. I was playing around with this. So you may have. Oh, okay. It looks like you've already updated. So you can turn this over here. Very good. Go. Goes. Choose a voice. Hey, I'm ready to hit the ground running. So if there's anything you'd like me to pick up first, just bring it. Okay. I found it. Let me know if you have any more questions.
Okay. Actually, so another question. What is I didn't even ask the question. So I prefer to ask you. And then I answer the what's the question is can ChatGPT or any other have access to private websites or stuff like this?
I mean,
Because you said that there is this element of confidentiality, obviously, that is very important. So if somehow you don't want people to have access to, I don't know, just for the sake of argument, let's say that you, I don't know, a newspaper, right, that is free, but it's got some paid stuff as well. And subscription there, I would like for it to, I don't know, maybe read the 10 articles. They are all paid, but summarize whatever. Obviously, I can do it manually. I can click on each one of them, download it, put it all in, check it here, whatever. But maybe there is a different way of doing that. So it's similar to, say, research statements. Research theory, they are behind some sort of work. They usually have you check it out. I mean, like, I understand again that there is the confidentiality element there, copyrighting, all of that, but you personally do have access to it. So is there a way to do anything?
What I would say,
Don't do anything.
well, I mean, ideally, don't do anything illegal.
It's not illegal.
Well, I mean, if
If you do have,
well, if you have the access, I mean, what I would say is,
download everything.
I mean, it's certainly possible. I'm sure you wouldn't be the first to do it. One thing I would say is you want to tread quite lightly because I mean, the laws are still sort of being put in place. The last thing you want to do is end up in that sort of situation. But there are many forms of LLMs, and there are some that are actually extremely negative for humanity. There are some that are specifically designed to be destructive. Like literally.
I'm sorry, I just don't know what. Are you talking about a person or are you talking about
No, I'm talking about a model that if you type into it, it will give you outputs that are like destructive.
cheeky?
Well, not just
More than
cheeky,
cheeky.
but like
Like how to build a nuclear bomb double thing.
I mean, what I would say is that they're probably listening, so I would speak on that topic.
Okay,
But
These-
in any case,
These evil chats.
yeah, I mean, they're definitely out there. I've experienced,
Not on my computer.
but it's a very interesting time. What I would say is like these LLMs like will actually let's say condone illegal activities in their output and describe how you want to steer away from that because
Yeah.
that's just extremely experimental. We don't know how that's going to go. But if you want to access some private websites, I mean, and you're set on doing that, then I would just say make sure you've got a good VPN, and then you use chat behind that. Create another account. But this isn't any kind of
This
advice.
went very, very quick. Dark, but
I think that was the nature of the question.
for me. It was I'm lazy, and if I need to, grab a bunch of stuff all together into different places, and maybe summarize it, to write something. I thought there was an easy way for you to access it if you do have access it. And then I don't have to, so through a prompt, simply, I can say, hey, access this article here, article here, and write a tweet of, I don't know which one, or, that's what I meant.
You can
That
definitely do
was
that.
kind of the story.
Right. Well, you can definitely do that if they're publicly available. You can definitely put links to the page, or if that doesn't work on some models, you can copy and paste the article. The length will fit in the total field. And it doesn't say too long. So you can definitely do that to generate information based on that. So I would definitely recommend that. That's what I do quite often.
You do that. And is it true I've read some people used some of these language models to do successfully somehow investment recommendations or sort of. So that potentially you can say, look, I mean, these are the prices, these are the things. So I don't even know actually. There must be on YouTube some of this stuff. I suspect it's probably a scam. It sounds like, what would you ever?
Well, you don't have to. Well, I mean, with regards to investments, in fact, blockchain sensei, one of our main things is providing people with solid financial education. Obviously, not advice, but education. I enjoyed it there. He does 3 live streams every week. Game NFT Fridays and speaking Sundays. Games on Mondays, and which is the live note advice. I have actually taken pictures of particular asset charts, put it onto ChatGPT. Bear in mind, so I do that.
So it would
I should give you information based, of course, on your points. I have Now I've been trading and investing for about 5, 6 years, so I'm not just going to take everything. It gives me the law, right? But it is pretty good for an absolute beginner. It does give you some interesting stuff. Like there's particular GPT called market analyst that I actually use.
So let me just, I'm gonna write it down.
Yeah, so I can see you've got some GPTs in your sidebar.
Yes, but actually this was another. Sorry,
So can I come back?
you can do anything.
Okay, sure. I just wanted to also see if
Absolutely.
Hey, good.
Okay, so
Thanks a lot. I appreciate that.
You just need to focus on us. You don't need to use your phone because you ask the question, right? You either use fast, focus on fast, or use ChatGPT. Then at the same time, you try others. So just focus on one.
I think that for research,
I think
I'll go back to those place.
Yeah, it's
suitable.
Yeah.
It's just as it is asking for a phone
Yeah.
number.
Just because of them, you said you was so how come we didn't talk about data?
Yes.
You really wanted to think and just make this philosophy.
Okay.
Yes, you
Do
either
that.
focus on time or time, and then you can't really transition past habits. So you may know it's just like when you go before for other like you use one skill,
Yeah. Yeah, that's good advice. Thank you very much.
lecture course,
I'm a research fellow.
which department?
It's a school of hospitality and tourism management.
There is the other
So,
department, business school.
Business school, okay.
Business analytic.
Cool. Imagine soon. Okay, nice to meet you.
So I'll help you structure this one as a little more. So let's start with that. You are a professional. So I can be helpful.
Thank you.
To make it up. Yeah.
So I think it's check.
Somehow, he's a amazing just expressive ones is you are a professional knowledge and so but I really just that's so why does it say you have 20 years experience? I received that new not in the matrix. Yeah. That universities and then I
wasn't a very cool song as well. That's a London work, that's right. It's in the London courses.
this is
This is what today. James Johnson.
give me a chance to show me.
Shopping times. Is that the option first? So you back in January. Just delivered a lecture on artificial intelligence. And then produce a little called with Carol Shurikan. Friday, Greenwich Union, 1:55 p.m. Watching something. In the running. Saturday,
Going to be
watching somewhere. Joshua invited me.
so for example,
And that's near so
you can give
so.
recommended sites across America, such as Grand Canyon. And I know it's very clear. So who are you going to? One, I'm good. One. 4 years. We can expand on that. And going with my mom, she's particularly interested in XYZ. The Grand Canyon is the next thing. And then type. So structure your output in the form of a clear itinerary, or we say structure your output in the form of an itinerary.
right? And lastly, you can end it with any extras. So well add. So I'll let you run this. Yeah. So anything you'd like to add, I'll let you run this point, and then I'll come back in about 5-10 minutes and see what you got in life. You have any questions? I know that it's not a conclusion. Yeah, that's it. If you have any questions, I think that will
It's going good. I think just let me know an email if someone pretending to be Joey, so just be happy because I think someone's impersonating a reporter. I'm not sure if I can.
How he got
Via
By
email,
email?
yeah. This is a.
sure you know that.
When I click, I told you, but when I clicked on it, you can see the email is not actually Joey. So that was kind of the so I let him know he's pretending to be him. So I think I'll just let everyone else know as well. I didn't send a message instead for everyone just so just let me know. Yeah, no problem.
These are less clear than so these are plugins. So there's plugins and there are GPTs. So plugins are essentially like just extensions to ChatGPT. There's ChatGPTs that are essentially like ChatGPT, but they're trained in like this solution. So what I would recommend is actually to join a LinkedIn group that I created where I talk about all the GPTs you can create. So if you go on LinkedIn, you try to update this roughly every day with a new GPT that you can access. It's for specific use cases. So if you type all the GPTs, we look to the GPT as done. Yeah, yes. Wow, 20 is great. Sorry, it's like few days ago. Can go around. So yeah, so this is where we post about the GPTs here. Send you a link now to this specific one talking about with regards to advertising. No, I'm used to create. No, you don't have to ready to create. You can see access, but you can also create your own. I'll share my phone. I was like, this thing I'm showing things here. And so
seem like that nothing not only to use this, it is by this was to um it's oh yeah, so we generalize and I'll send you messaging in finalization of the test to JVRENI. Share the channels. No, it's still that. Yeah, this is not sure that's maybe research week. But it's super happens. Trying to follow great stuff. So now I think you linked to that market analyst GPT. Yeah. You know what's nice is it's nice way. It's pretty good, I would say. You don't feel like the research says no, but it's a good foundation. And it's good confirmation if you're already interested in making a particular investment. Yes, and also those confluence to it. No, the best, right? Yeah, another question. Investment is holding the client. With your findings, I guess, investment. Through ChatGPT, yeah. I mean, there's also on the website called There's an AI for that. So if you just type in There's an AI for that, I would say that's the number one resource for AI development and research. That is an amazing website. You're gonna have a lot of fun. You know what? That's good. Good. What's enduring successful? Oh, that was just the first. Oh, nice. Yeah, it's giving you some nice images. It's getting along well then. Nice. Okay, I'll leave you to it. That's
Trying to
good.
make it more specific to see whether it gives out better outputs.
Yeah, I think he. Yes.
Question, because I've done the questionnaire thing. And so about generated this kind of questionnaire with images and it's obviously the possibility to share something as projects to those.
We'll draft them to.
Yes. So the issue is that when I open it, it uses for the the format, the images. So
The images, yeah, you'll have to actually download the images.
copy,
Yeah,
yes.
so if you
copy. So
if you scroll up, it actually gives you. It's not the image itself. Well, the image is the sort of
it's
thumbnail, but it's a link. Yeah, precisely.
That's
And then you
I
can
guess
download
that's
it.
open.
Yeah, so if you click on that now, for example, that will go to the Wikipedia page for Surrey County
Just
how that relates to the university.
okay. And the other thing is that with Chloe, I knew that so my phone number is a Spanish phone number.
That should be fun. Oh, you speak Spanish?
Yeah,
Hablas un poquito de español.
hablas español.
Yo tenía clases con el profesor de personas.
Ah, muy bien.
Sí. ¿Qué parte de eso?
Yo vivo en Alicante. ¿Has estado en España?
So, no, nunca, pero me gusta. Oh, this is still recording. I didn't even realize.
Yeah. We still live, homie. So
Pero, eso es buenas cuentas, sí.
better keep it PG.
¿Cuándo fue más joven enseñaba alemán? Yeah.
Vale. O sea, que hablas entonces español y alemán.
Sí.
Vaya.
Yeah, it's a lot of fun.
Qué
Pero
bueno.
para español todavía estoy probando. Anyway, yeah.
¿Pero
So,
qué haces? ¿Una clase a la semana?
una clase, yes.
Bueno, tendrías que, no sé si quieres acelerar, de momento hablas muy bien, te comunicas muy bien, y se te entiende todo lo que dices. Sería hacer como cursos intensivos o viajar y estar ahí como unos meses en España. Si pasas unos meses ahí hablando todos los días, entonces vas a mejorar mucho.
Sí, es muy importante.
La práctica.
Sí, tengo todos los días una media hora por gramática y una media hora por vocabulario.
Muy bien.
Gracias.
¡Qué máquina! Pues me alegro mucho. Hablas súper bien.
Yeah, my Spanish is still a bit rusty. I was even better, but I understood what you're saying. It's just
getting back into
It's
it.
just a better practice, I guess.
Absolutely.
This is my first month in Surrey, and
How are you finding it?
I like it. But I think I need to do the same. What I've advised you to do is to learn a language. You need to get like very into it. So
Absolutely. I actually have a very, very extensive system, which I'm looking to eventually sell as a digital product because it's extremely effective. Actually, it's a mind map that separates things into vocabulary and then grammar. Because, of course, you need to understand the grammar and use it as a framework and then populate your knowledge of vocabulary. And this is precisely how I managed to learn German and then eventually end up teaching it 2 years without ever setting foot in any German-speaking country when I was about 16 years old. So yeah, it's things like that, really immersing yourself in it. I was literally writing books on the grammar, German grammar, and giving it to my friends to pass. So yeah, it's just about immersing yourself, like with anything, and certainly with prompting large language models.
And that's very interesting. So my approach to that in language learning is to, I guess that's similar to every other area, is to get into it, like avoiding learning in like classical learning. Like the problem with language learning is that people would study language at school and that wouldn't have much into learning language. What it helps is the practice with the language.
Absolutely, yeah. And repetition is the mother of all skill. And I think you just got to carve out time in your day. I'm militantly meticulous with regards to how I spend my time. So yeah, that's probably
Very good.
great stuff.
Well, the issue here is that there's no ability to introduce a Spanish phone number. Well, I'd just say I could have found it.
Not Espanol?
No.
Okay, cool. Well, in that case, I would recommend using Perplexity. And that's have you heard of Perplexity?
No, this is the first time I'm going to.
So this is a really useful one. Do you need to sign up for it?
No, for it.
No. Well, I mean, you do to see your history, but yeah, this is also a great one.
Okay.
I hope you don't need a phone number for it, but if you do, it's
well, with Bing, I was able to access just with the university account.
Yeah, you can skip this. Great, so now you can
anything. Yes, I'll do that.
Cool.
Okay, thanks, Joe.
You're very welcome.
Right, guys, I think we're gonna end the live stream there. Make sure you follow Blockchain Sensei SHURiKAN and go connect with Jeremiah Johnson. Take care.